Good evening, listeners, and welcome to the Global Pulse for the 4th of June 2025, based on US Eastern Time. Today's broadcast brings you the latest updates on international conflicts and geopolitics, economy and policy, political and social movements, crime and violence, sports and culture, and natural disasters and environment. We cover the pulse of communities and the global landscape, keeping you informed on what matters most. International conflict and geopolitics. Israel attacks Syrian targets after projectile launches. Overnight, from the 3rd of June to the 4th of June 2025, Israel conducted airstrikes in southern Syria, targeting Syrian Authority weapons in response to 2 projectiles launched toward its territory. Israel's defense minister held Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa responsible, though it remains unclear who fired the projectiles. Syria reported significant losses from the attack. Mapping Israel's expanding air attacks across Syria. Since December 2024, Israel has launched hundreds of airstrikes in Syria, averaging one every 3 to 4 days, escalating regional tensions and raising concerns about broader conflict spillover. Dozens of bodies found in militia-run sites in Libya's Tripoli. The United Nations has expressed alarm after more than 70 bodies were discovered in militia strongholds in Tripoli, Libya. The UN rights chief is urging accountability as investigations into these mass graves intensify. Russia-Ukraine war. Key events on day 1196. On the 3rd of June, 2025, the Russia-Ukraine conflict marked its 1196th day, with ongoing developments shaping the war's trajectory. Specific events were not detailed, but the situation remains a critical global flashpoint. 5. UN food aid workers killed in Sudan ambush. A deadly attack on a UN convoy in Sudan on the 3rd of June 2025 killed 5 food aid workers, further disrupting aid delivery to hunger-stricken families in the war-torn nation. Hunger and bullets, Palestinians recall Rafah aid massacre horror. On the 2nd of June 2025, more than 30 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces while seeking aid in Rafah, Gaza. The incident has drawn widespread condemnation, with survivors describing a chaotic and deadly scene. Israel warns Palestinians against travel to Gaza aid hubs. On the 3rd of June 2025, Israel's military labeled roads to Gaza aid distribution centers as combat zones, prohibiting Palestinian travel after 27 people were killed near US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites. The foundation suspended aid operations for a day. US to reduce military presence in Syria. The US announced plans to scale back its military presence in Syria, maintaining only one operational base. The US envoy emphasized a shift in strategy, stating it will not be like the last 100 years. EU proposes extending right for 4M Ukrainians to stay until 2027. The European Commission proposed extending temporary protection for over 4 million Ukrainians in the EU until March 2027, while encouraging voluntary return schemes for those wishing to go back to Ukraine. Kashmir in the crossfire. Recent clashes between India and Pakistan have reignited tensions in Kashmir, with Al Jazeera's Kamal Haider reporting on the escalating conflict and its impact on the region's residents. Economy and policy. Trump's 50% tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum take effect. On the 4th of June 2025, the US implemented 50% tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum imports, prompting criticism from trading partners like Mexico and Canada. The UK was spared, with President Trump citing a recent trade deal expected to take effect soon. Elon Musk slams Trump's budget bill as disgusting abomination. Elon Musk, who recently left the Trump administration, criticized the US president's budget bill on the 3rd of June 2025, calling it an abomination that could increase the national debt by $2.5 trillion. The bill faces a critical Senate vote. Can India become an economic superpower? India's economy grew by 7.4% in the first quarter of 2025, exceeding expectations and fueling discussions about its potential to become a global economic superpower. UK prepares for war. How much will it cost? A UK review calling for war-fighting readiness amid new global threats faces uncertainty over funding, raising questions about the cost of military expansion. winter fuel payments to be reinstated this year. UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves confirmed on the 4th of June 2025 that winter fuel payments for pensioners will be reinstated before winter, with the eligibility threshold rising from £11,500. Extreme weather weighs on Australian economy. Australia's economy grew by just 0.2% in the first quarter of 2025, slowed by extreme weather and reduced government support, leaving annual GDP growth at 1.3%. Sellafield, nuclear, clean up, too slow, and costly. UK MPs criticised the slow and costly cleanup of the Sellafield nuclear waste site, warning of intolerable risks due to ageing infrastructure and a suboptimal workplace culture. Political and social movements. Dutch government collapses over asylum dispute. On the 3rd of June 2025, the Dutch government collapsed after populist leader Geert Wilders withdrew from the ruling coalition over a migration dispute, prompting the Prime Minister's resignation. South Korea's new president Lee Jae-myung pledges to unite country. Lee Jae-myung, sworn in as South Korea's president on the 3rd of June 2025, promised to heal national divisions, boost the economy, and improve ties with North Korea. Experts warn he faces challenges, including navigating trade tensions with the US. Pro-Palestine protesters in UK call for Israel arms embargo. On the 4th of June 2025, UK protesters rallied for an arms embargo and sanctions against Israel, as Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Israel's actions intolerable in Parliament. Norway rejects divestment from Israeli-occupied territories. Norway's parliament voted on the 4th of June 2025 against divesting its £1.4 sovereign wealth fund from Israel's occupied Palestinian territories, despite emotional debates and protests. Europe's swing to the right is deeply worrying. Analysts warn that Europe's rising cost of living is fueling anti-migration narratives, contributing to a concerning shift toward right-wing politics across the continent. Marjorie Taylor Greene, accused of targeting NGOs. On the 4th of June 2025, a congressional watchdog accused US Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of assembling a rogues gallery to attack NGOs in a hearing, calling it political theatre. NSW Labour seeks Conservative support for workers' compensation bill. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns warned of a $2 billion budget hole if a controversial workers' compensation bill aimed at curtailing psychological injury claims fails to pass. Tasmanian Liberal Premier faces no confidence motion. Tasmanian Premier Jeremy Rockliff admitted on the 4th of June 2025 that a no confidence motion over his handling of the state's budget and infrastructure issues might end his tenure. Crime and violence. Man linked to fatal Palm Springs fertility clinic bombing arrested. On the 3rd of June 2025, the FBI arrested 32-year-old Daniel Park in connection with a car bombing at a Palm Springs fertility clinic where the suspected bomber died. 3 Salvadorian ex-military convicted of 1,982 killings of Dutch journalists. On the 3rd of June 2025, a former El Salvador defense minister and 2 retired colonels were sentenced to 15 years for the 1,982 murders of 4 Dutch journalists during the Civil War. Pakistani TikToker shot, dead by suspected stalker. On the 2nd of June 2025, 17-year-old TikToker Sana Yousaf was fatally shot at her home in Islamabad, Pakistan, days after her birthday, in a suspected stalker-related attack. Boulder attack renews safety concerns for U.S. Jewish communities. A recent attack targeting Jewish institutions in Boulder has heightened calls for increased security measures across U.S. Jewish communities. Potential agroterrorism weapon fungus smuggled into U.S. 2 Chinese scientists, Yunqing Jian and Zunyong Liu, were charged on the 3rd of June 2025 with smuggling a toxic fungus into the U.S., raising concerns about potential crop losses. Family of Boulder suspect detained by immigration authorities. The wife and 5 children of Mohammed Sabri Solomon, a suspect in a Boulder firebomb attack, were detained by U.S. immigration authorities on the 3rd of June 2025. Kyrgyzstan court sentences ex-leader Atambayev to 11 years. Former Kyrgyz leader Almazbek Atambayev was sentenced in absentia to 11 years on the 4th of June, 2025, for corruption and participating in mass unrest. Reformed Manson follower recommended for parole. Patricia Kronwinkel, a former Charles Manson follower, was recommended for parole on the 3rd of June, 2025, after 56 years in prison for the 1,969 Tatlabianca murders. Search resumes in Madeleine McCann case. On the 4th of June, 2025, Portuguese and German police resumed searches for Madeleine McCann, focusing on derelict buildings near where she disappeared in 2007. New Jersey mayor sues U.S. attorney after arrest. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, a candidate for New Jersey governor, filed a lawsuit on the 3rd of June, 2025, against the Trump administration, alleging a false arrest in a politically motivated case. Aboriginal community shaken by death in police custody. The death of Kumanjayi White in an Alice Springs supermarket on the 3rd of June, 2025, has reignited trauma in Australia's Warlpiri community, marking the second such incident in custody. Sports and culture. Spain plays France in UEFA Nations League semi-final. On the 4th of June, 2025, reigning European champions Spain faced World Cup runner-up France in the UEFA Nations League semi-final, with key players expected to shine. Germany faces Portugal in UEFA Nations League semi-final. On the 3rd of June, 2025, host nation Germany took on Portugal, featuring stars like Cristiano Ronaldo in the first UEFA Nations League semi-final. Kohli wins first IPL title with RCB. Virat Kohli led Royal Challengers Bengaluru to their first Indian Premier League title on the 3rd of June, 2025, defeating Punjab Kings by 6 runs in a thrilling final. Man Utez Fernandes rejects Saudi move. Manchester United captain Bruno Fernandes confirmed on the 3rd of June 2025 that he turned down a lucrative offer from the Saudi Pro League to stay at Old Trafford. Will Ferrell to bring Eurovision musical to Broadway. Will Ferrell announced on the 4th of June 2025 that his 2020 Netflix comedy Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, will be adapted into a Broadway musical. Tweed's youthful makeover revives Scottish heritage. Young weavers in Scotland's Hebrides are revitalising Harris tweed, blending tradition with modern style to boost its global appeal. Naughty's nostalgia trends on TikTok. Television shows like Vampire Diaries and Skins, along with 2000s music, are experiencing a revival on TikTok, driven by Gen X and millennial nostalgia. Back to the Future stars hunt for missing guitar. Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd issued a plea on the 3rd of June 2025 to recover the iconic cherry red Gibson guitar from Back to the Future, missing since the 1985 film. Natural disasters and environment. 11 die in Bengaluru crush during IPL victory parade. On the 4th of June 2025, a stampede in Bengaluru, India, killed 11 people as thousands gathered to celebrate Royal Challengers Bengaluru's IPL victory. At least 11 dead in stampede outside cricket stadium in India. Authorities reported an uncontrollable crowd led to 11 deaths on the 3rd of June, 2025, during celebrations for the Indian Premier League winners in Bengaluru. FDA issues highest alert for tomato recall. Due to salmonella risk, on the 4th of June, 2025, the FDA upgraded a tomato recall in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina to its highest alert level due to potential salmonella contamination. Push to reopen old mines in NSW for critical minerals. Exploration for antimony has resumed on the Dorrigo Plateau in New South Wales, but locals fear contamination risks to the regional water supply. Information statement. Our news is sourced from BBC World, Al Jazeera, and The Guardian. All content has been verified for accuracy. That concludes our Global Pulse for the 4th of June, 2025. We'll continue to bring you daily updates on the stories shaping our world. Thank you for tuning in, and we wish you a wonderful day. Until tomorrow, goodbye.